right, people. I hope you are doing well. Today is November the 19th, 2022, and I am well rested. Yes, I did, in fact, sleep in today. It was great. I did not wake up until 9 a.m., and that is very unusual for me. So it's quite nice. Now, it is raining. It's dreary here today. The wind chill is like 30 something, but you guys in Buffalo, New York, you don't want to hear about that, do you? Because you guys are really, really, really under the bomb. It is, what is it, 9 feet of snow? So, yeah, it's pretty rough up there. So, for once, I can say the Gulf Coast is a place to be in terms of weather. That doesn't happen very often. Okay. So I hope you guys stay warm. Those of you in the northern regions of the United States and, of course, Canada, please stay warm and cozy. All right. So I've been listening to AB, or the actual channel name is A Balance. Okay. I like to listen to him. He, he well, he's brilliant, and so a lot of times he'll challenge like what I'm thinking. So he basically believes that perhaps the unusual, what should I say, unkempt appearance of Debbie Collier in the Family Dollar store, that actually that could be a drug addiction. That some of the things that I was pointing out in my video, sort of questioning law enforcement and finding it very difficult to believe that they're naming this suicide. But I had talked about, seeing Collier in the store and some unusual things. Her body type is off. Being able to pull that door, wide open and it swing freely. The roots, her hair, being grown out really bad. You know, wearing less than, the photographs we've seen of Debbie Collier, um, she was very conscientious about her fashion and her hygiene. Everything was, she coordinated even jewelry with the clothing. And, that's not the person that we see coming into the store. And so I was listening to him, and I thought, well, okay, so could this be accurate? Someone who, if someone is taking high doses of something like hydrocodone, it can disrupt some natural hormone levels. Obviously, you're living in someone who's abusing that particular class of drugs, they can live in a constant state of dehydration, which creates some respiratory problems, some heart problems, and that would then be reflected physically. There's no doubt that whomever that was standing there at the cash register, that the hair had really been neglected. But I got, I had people that sent me messages or emails, and they were very clear that hair doesn't part like that. It's very, the pattern. Now, I will say this, it could be a computer artifact, right? When I say computer, I mean like a camera artifact. Sometimes these cameras kind of, they're trying to interpret what they're seeing to, I guess maybe it's part of the image stabilization. So maybe that's why it appears to be a nearly straight, unusual line, that one straight line up and down and then two perpendicular. Regardless, I'm going under the assumption today that is in fact Debbie Collier on that Family Dollar store video. and if I make that assumption and I said, no, that's her, even though her husband says it's not her and her son says it's not her, family members have distanced themselves from Amanda for some reason, but Amanda believes it is her, and Amanda has stated clearly she believes that it was, you know, a completed suicide. But the son and the not the father, the husband, they do not believe that. Okay, so so we're not the only ones that are struggling with all of this information. And the fact that, the sheriff's department, they just have not been very forthcoming with information, right? Um, have they even done a press conference saying the medical examiner's conclusions or the final decision by the coroner? Have we seen any of that? Or is all we have seen just, oh, here's what the ME said? But that was one thing that Dr. Latina and I were talking about was, no, that autopsy would have been but one piece of the overall picture, right? And that would be the coroner that would consider all these other pieces of data, and the coroner would work with the detectives and the prosecutor if they found that there was a suspicious death. So us making the assumption that this was in fact Debbie Collier, 59-year-old woman. By the way, I did find a newer article that said that she walked in to the woods 2/10 of a mile. But I remember specifically talking about it would have taken 15 minutes to walk. If you consider that you walk a 20-minute mile, which is a very comfortable, just regular, healthy walking, right? You're not walking really fast. You're not really just kind of sauntering, but you're actually walking like you're walking from your car into your job. Okay. It usually takes about 20 minutes at that rate. And I remember talking about that, and judging by that 20-minute mile thing, I thought, well, she was probably walking maybe 15 minutes. Well, that's not 2/10 of a mile. And I can't find the older articles that were talking about her being like a half a mile into the woods. So I'm still looking. But I want to correct that. I said 1 or 2 miles because I was kind of going by memory. And really, I was making a point. My point being, the story is too ridiculous. It's such a silly, ridiculous story to imagine her going into the Family Dollar, making her purchases, getting in the car, driving 10, 15 minutes, pulling over, and then walking out into the woods, and then, doing these things. So please hear me. The newer article said 2/10 of a mile. Originally, I had some information that made me think she would have been walking about 15 minutes into. And in fact, her daughter says, or it may have been Jeffrey, it may have been the son. One of them said, my mom had a bad back. She wouldn't have been walking out in the woods. And I don't remember which one said that. It was quite a while ago. It was right when this case, first started. So, so if I assume that it absolutely is Debbie Collier, then you could look at the hair being unkempt and the roots that are so dark. The fact that her hair was not really even brushed, it didn't look normal. The shirt looks enormously big and kind of dirty around the neckline. Looks kind of dirty. The wearing black socks and black shoes with a skirt, which was highly unusual for, hold on just a minute. Sorry about that. So really a lack of attention to her appearance, right? He could those all be signs of a woman who was in the middle of addiction? And yeah, yeah, a balance is exactly right about that. Um, he made a good point. He said, which I had not considered. I gotta own it. I had not considered. He made a great point, saying, she had kind of going back out in the car, and she was a bit tenuous about whether she was ready to drive out of the parking lot. She moved to a different parking space, and then even when she started driving, it was sort of going slow and lurching here and there, and odd turns and whatnot to get through the parking lot. But ultimately, he thought, well, what if she was in the process of trying to take more pills? So she's already on them. She goes in, she purchases the things that she did. She comes back out, takes a few more of the hydrocodone, and then she heads off down like she's going home, and she pulls over because the pills begin to take effect, and she's drowsy and not feeling well, or feeling too good, or whatever they do. I mean, it is. I will say this: it is the best explanation to me. In fact, it's really kind of the only explanation for why she would have been there in the middle of nowhere. Why did she just pull over and park there? It just doesn't make any sense. So, I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea. But it is. He also, y'all need to go over and watch his video. It's really good. He also talks about this text message, "They won't let me go." And I think there's sort of that. Y'all have to go watch this video and tell me what your thoughts are. But it's sort of like making the kind of questioning, is it possible that they, quotation marks, that would be her compulsions, the craving for the drug. When people are, when their neurotransmitters get low and the receptors are open, then the receptors being open kind of send this message to the brain, and it says, hey, we're out of dopamine. We need more. You got to get this person to go do what they do to get their dopamine. And for some people, it's alcohol. For some people, it's, I don't know, any kind of marijuana or dark chocolate, sex, exercise, drugs. There's a lot of different things that can, gambling. There's a lot of different things, situations, and substances that can make your neurotransmitters go up and down. So, but when your receptors begin to empty, that is what then creates the compulsion. That is what then makes the person begin to crave whatever their substance is. And I guess in Debbie's case, it would be the opiates. And so, is that what she meant by "they won't let me go"? He kind of posits that she was battling this addiction, and she was experiencing these compulsions to use, and that was what she meant by "they won't let me go." And do we know listening to him then made me think, well, maybe she was the one that was headed to the rehab. Maybe it was her. Maybe she was there and she was just too scared to go through it. She didn't want to be dope sick. She didn't want to go through detox. She didn't want to. I don't know. Please understand. The only reason I'm saying these things is I'm trying to take the opposite side of my position. I'm trying to challenge my beliefs to see it a different way. So, Amanda says, she says that she didn't think that her mother wanted her to know things that would worry her. But then she goes on to say to Amanda, that she's having all these problems, but she's not telling anybody else. You know what? I'm trying. I am. Here's a question. If this woman was in the middle of addiction, if this unkempt appearance, kind of being maybe swollen, from liver problems, kidney problems related to the abuse of the hydrocodone. Hydrocodone comes in a mixture with acetaminophen, and acetaminophen is notorious for creating liver problems. And that is one of the reasons that they began to add acetaminophen, ibuprofen, or aspirin. They began to add it to these opiate mixtures in an effort to curtail addiction, right? I don't remember what it is. I used to know. Is it over 4? I don't remember if it's 4,000, 6. I think it's like 4,000. I think it's 4,000. If you take more than 4,000 units of acetaminophen daily, that's enough to create long-term liver damage. Well, if you're taking hydrocodone in high doses, you can easily get over that 4,000 acetaminophen, correct? Tylenol. You can easily get over that. And then you begin to develop liver problems and kidney problems. Well, there is another onslaught against your body that can create, outward appearance changes in your outward appearance. But if that's the case, why wouldn't Jeffrey and Steve, why wouldn't they have noticed? I don't know if you guys have ever seen someone who's using this type of drug, but they will be looking at you and just fall asleep. Like you're talking to them, and the next thing you know, they're just sleeping. And then they'll kind of jerk themselves back awake, and they'll pick up talking right where they left off. Boom, 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 boom. It's like, oh my gosh. And I actually thought about hydrocodone as a possibility when Nicole Kessinger described Chris Watts doing that. She said, oh my God, he'd sit on my sofa and he'd be talking, and then he'd fall asleep, and then all of a sudden be awake and pick up right where he left off. And I was like, well, that definitely sounds like somebody on the knot, right? So I don't know. Wouldn't that be something that Jeffrey and Steve Collier would know about? I don't know. But I just, it's so interesting to me, y'all. Look, here's the reality. I'm no detective. You're no detective. Well, some of you may be detectives, but on this channel, we're just here visiting. It's the water cooler at the office. We're just standing around the water cooler having a conversation. I think I think what my problem is, where I keep, I don't understand. Here's the problem I'm having with embracing this idea that Debbie Collier ended her life. Okay, this is such a ridiculous proposition to me, for a lot of reasons. This was torture. This was an incredibly painful, terrible, awful death. I don't care whose standards we use, terrible. Okay. I think that it is very difficult to ignore her hand clenched around that tree. And it didn't even come loose when she fell, went down the ravine. So her hand, when she was holding that tree when she died, and apparently she would have been in deep fear from something. And so when in those circumstances, that clenched hand, it's like an instant rigor mortis type of reaction. So that is hard for me to understand. It's hard for me to understand the torture. It's hard for me to understand the death grip on the tree. And it's very difficult for me to understand why Jeffrey and Steve are like, no, that is not her in that video at that store. I'm talking about the security camera. That's not her. But you have Amanda saying, well, the cops believe it's her. I'm having a very difficult time resolving initially the police coming out and saying this was a personal and targeted attack. I'm having a very difficult time resolving that with the current, oh yeah, she did it. I'm having such a difficult time understanding that. Right? So I want to look at both sides. I want to be fair. More than anything, I want to be accurate. That's really my main drive. I want to be accurate. I want to be responsible in what I say on my channel. But that doesn't mean being foolish. That doesn't mean closing my eyes to certain things just to make it fit a certain picture. I mean, that's kind of what I'm sort of saying against the police, right? I'm kind of saying, hold on a minute. Maybe you did get an autopsy that came back and said, well, she had inhalation of poison fumes. She had burns on her upper torso, and she had hydrocodone intoxication. But are you really going to ignore everything else? That is very hard to understand. Why would Debbie buy a rain poncho and a tarp at the dollar store? Well, okay. So if I assume that it was in fact Debbie making these purchases, and I make the assumption, as I did before, that she was headed to the game, which was impossible because the game ended before she ever would have returned home. Okay. But just kind of playing devil's advocate here. I thought, okay, well, it's rainy, drizzly. And if you're going to go tailgating, then a tarp would be really helpful. And then you'd have, your poncho to stay dry during the game. Okay. So I did think of that. But then we came out with new information about the time of the game. And it was like, well, that doesn't work. Then I thought about it from a nefarious point of view. Well, what if the person that harmed Debbie is in the van waiting on her and has told her exactly what to buy? Well, then if your plan is that you're going to do her in, you're going to kill her, then you have you have a tarp to make her stand on or sit on or kneel on or whatever. And then you wear the poncho so that when you shoot her or stab her or whatever, then the blood doesn't get on your clothes. And then you pull the tarp off, the poncho off, and you leave it with the tarp, and then you burn the whole kit and caboodle to burn the evidence away. So you're never connected to being there. And that was the other thing I thought. But then we get this information that there is hydrocodone intoxication, and she does in fact have a long-standing prescription for hydrocodone. And now I'm thinking, wait a minute, 2.5 times her normal dose? She's going to die. A pretty simple way. Somebody else brought up, if you're going to take your shirt off, if you're going to get naked, why don't you just take that shirt, plug up the exhaust, in your car, and then sit there and fall asleep? It surely seems like a very complicated, very difficult manner of suicide. It really does. If we just look at it in terms of just no kind of judgment, no kind of opinionated, just the facts, ma'am. You look at it, just the facts. You think, good gracious, that she went through a great deal of work and torture and shame and humiliation to what? Off herself? Why? Yeah, apparently her shirt was actually soaked in gasoline. And later they found a gasoline can out there. And if she's doped up on a drug like hydrocodone, then how was she able to take a rather large SUV and park it in that real tight spot right in front of the door, without any type of apparent disruption there, right? I don't know, Glamis. This is the strangest thing. She did not plan to die. People that commit suicide, hold on. People that commit suicide by fire usually make it a statement in front of someone. Yeah, like an act of religious protest, right? But woo, that's a horrible way to die, people. That takes a long time to die. And you are in exquisite global pain as you're burning. It just is too. I can't get there. I'm sorry, AB. I'm trying. I can't get there. I cannot get to a point that I can. I don't know. She's not young and impulsive, right? She's been an office manager, a front office manager. That's a very specific personality type. Not typically the sort of person that's running around with drug dealers and using, scary substances. Even if she was having a psychotic or mental health crisis, it's just bizarre to think that she would plan such a strange death. I can't see a woman pulling over on the road like that either. Well, I believe a balance. I think he's making a really good point that if she's taking those pills, Not sure how long it would take for it to get in their blood system to maybe maybe 30 minutes maybe before she would start feeling the effects. So maybe that's why she pulled over. Maybe she pulled over because she had taken, while she was sitting in that parking lot doing whatever she was doing, maybe she had taken additional pills, right? And got sleepy, dizzy, intoxicated feeling, and that's why she pulled over where she did. That, I mean, I think that's about the best explanation that I've heard so far. That would explain what the hell she was doing right there. And I got to tell you this too. Maybe it was she that was going to the rehab. Maybe she was the one going to detox. And listen, you got to understand, y'all, people that are using alcohol every day or using these physically addictive types of drugs every day, they know that if they cannot get their dose, they will become sick. They know that. And they don't want to be sick. It's an awful feeling. They hate it. So, is it possible that maybe she was supposed to be going into rehab? Is that, maybe that's the whole story, and that's why she was there. And ultimately she said, no, I can't. I don't want to do this. I'm too scared. I don't want to go through the withdrawals. I don't want to have to live in pain. It's possible, right? She was having an affair. Would she have bought those items to convince her husband that she was tailgating? Having an affair? I don't know. Has there been any information that would suggest they thought there was some infidelity? She suddenly had an adrenaline rush to text the daughter. Well, and that's a bit strange too. I mean, again, you're seeing this highly one-sided, mental focus that, well, Steve got nothing. There was no communication for poor old Steve. Jeffrey got a text message that did not get sent. But Amanda, not only did she receive the, oh, honey, I love you. Oh, yeah, here's a key to get in the house. Oh, yeah, and let me give you all my money. One, that I don't think I know a single mother that would discount and disregard one of her children and her husband and then lob the whole kit caboodle onto the one daughter. I don't think the one daughter who has all of these connections with people that might be a little scary might have connections to the organized, the world of organized crime, right? So, that doesn't make sense to me either. Normally, parents, you love all your kids. You don't love them equally. You love them in a different way because each one's a different person, their own personality. But it'd be very unusual to see somebody that was planning on ending their life and would shower all of this attention and material goods on one person and then completely disregard the other child and the current husband. It's very strange. It's very strange. She had the whole prior week to check out the rehabilitation center. Hey, Big Ups, welcome. Unless the voices told her to give the money to Amanda. So we're going to assume that these were real live voices. not just a not just a craving. Y'all think she was actually having like a psychotic event? I'm gonna have to think about that. She thinks she was having a psychotic event. So with bipolar, you can, if someone's in a manic state, they can develop don't typically see hallucinations, either visual or auditory. Don't usually see that with something like hydrocodone. That's something that's more often associated with one of the stimulants or alcohol, generally alcohol withdrawal. It's it's all mixed in with the dopamine problem. Norepinephrine's a big part of it, but no. If she was withdrawing off alcohol or she was withdrawing off benzodiazepines, then I would be more willing to say, yeah, maybe she was hallucinating. That would be very unusual. I wish Dr. Latina was here. It'd be really, my limited time working with this particular field in this particular addiction psychology. No, usually the hallucinations were associated with a stimulant, amphetamine, methamphetamine, whatever, or withdrawal from alcohol, benzodiazepine. Wonder if she could have been slipped the hydro. I don't know. we can make up all kinds of like potential stories. Well, maybe this happened, maybe that happened, maybe this happened, maybe that happened. But I do think we have to at least go by what we know that's been said by the cops, right? I just feel like it just seems like to me that they went with the medical examiner report, the autopsy, and they excluded all this other stuff. They just didn't consider it. I think it was Amanda in the store with stockings and a wig, and the boyfriend in the van with Debbie's dead body. But why? That's hard for me to understand, Big Ups, because Amanda is very large compared to Debbie. But Andrew is much closer to Debbie's actual size. So are y'all saying that there's some reason to think that Debbie had a urinary tract infection? And Amanda did say she was in that store that day. She absolutely did say that. Yes. It is strange, Shimmer Soul. It is very strange. Compression stocking. I don't know. It's kind of hard to change the size of your feet. You know what I mean? You can hide a lot of things, but your feet are that's pretty, I don't know. Anyway, y'all go over and check out A Balance's video from about 15 hours ago. I have been really trying to look at it from the other direction. Like, and I so far I haven't been able to get there, but I'm still trying. I'm still trying to make it make sense. Yeah, what about those feet? Yeah, right? Yeah. All right. So, that is what I wanted to say. I wanted to comment. I think that A Balance, I think his, you just got to go listen to the video because he makes some really interesting arguments, and I'm trying really hard to look at it from that perspective. Um, but it certainly doesn't, it does not, even if I look at it from AB's point of view and I'm like, yeah, this actually makes more sense than what I am saying, it still leaves me with the struggle that you've got a husband and a son who's saying, hey, it's not her. Now, this son is not somebody who has a lot of problems. He apparently is very, the bird is competing with me. Barry, hush. Hush. You're way too loud. No. So to go from this was a pointed and personal violent attack. There's no suicide or accident. To this was an act of self-harm, suicide. It's so hard to believe. So hard to believe. Yeah, you would think that the husband and the older son, who there are people that have come out to say that the older son is very well respected, he's very secure in his career and his marriage, and there's not these substance problems like, this is very hard to understand. It really is. Very hard. The bird knows he's the only one you could be talking to. Well, what is so incredibly strange is that he actually listened to me when I told him to be quiet. That's kind of, maybe he speaks English, people. Isn't that amazing? Listen how quiet he is. He's watching me too. He's watching real close. He's all fluffed up and sitting on his branch, and he's watching everything I'm doing. That's amazing that he got quiet. Must have been my teacher voice, my teacher face. You know that look, that mom look where there's no sound. They just look at you, eyebrows kind of raised and like, really? And then you're like, oh, sorry, I'll be quiet now, mom. Okay. Wow. I'm actually really shocked that they got quiet. Amazing. Can y'all hear this? I'm going to get quiet so you can listen. Strange, right? I think Barry behind bars, I think he speaks English, people. Very nice, Barry. I'm going to get you a special Christmas present. Okay. The statistics aren't high enough for me to believe she got naked and burned herself alive. It's just so ridiculous, right? People, even if you're intentionally trying to do something to hurt yourself, your body instinctively recoils from pain. Cinnamon, the damn birds shut up when I told them to be quiet. I am in complete amazement. Barry, are you okay? Did I hurt your feelings? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, pretty bird. I know what will make him start talking again. If I sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, he'll start singing. He'll, start chirping and everything again. Okay. So for those of you that don't like the bird, I apologize. But he's being a really good bird right now. This time of year is sad. House fires, several children lost here in Iowa. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. It's terrible. The burning herself didn't work, so she threw herself off the ravine, holding on to the tree. Big ups. Never forget that. She has a death grip on the tree, the 4-inch diameter tree. It's very hard to reconcile. Jules, have you ever spoken a foreign language to the birds? Well, I speak some Arabic. I speak French to my German Shepherd, and it really goes back and forth. So he recognized, wow, interesting. Very funny. Critters, thank you. It's kind of sad, all the pet videos. Bizarre is a very good descriptor. Yeah, this is one of the most unusual. It wasn't even so unusual until the medical examiner comes out and says, "Oh, that's it. It's suicide." That's when it got sincerely unusual, right? It's just so hard to work your mind around what she actually experienced in the woods. It's just amazing. I don't know. I don't know how to make it make sense. Yep. So, all right. We are going to be talking about, sadly, the 4 students that were murdered in Idaho. What There's not very many people that are talking about on the same exact day. There were 3 young men that were killed in another part of the state, or maybe it was in Virginia. Really great kids. They were football players there at the school, and it that one has sort of devolved into that the kid that did the shooting, he was also apparently a good kid, but that he's claiming that he was being bullied. The kids that he killed, like I said, they were football players and they had great grades and they were well loved. And so there's another story, same exact day, um, that's just really difficult to make sense of. So that will be my topic this evening. I want to talk about, obviously, the Idaho 4, but then the very same day you also had this very unusual, um, multiple casualty murder event where you have one student who shot and killed 2 other students, and they all 3 lost their lives. So it just hasn't gotten much attention, and it's absolutely devastating. Hey, Barry, no. Hey, you are being a bad bird. Stop. No. No. Quit. Shh. Shh. Barry, no. Stop. He's whistling really quiet. Fancy is asleep. She's got her head under her wing and she is fast asleep. Barry, hush. He's going, I was quiet a long time, Mom. Okay. Can't imagine being the parents of those kids. Oh, it's terrible, Caldonia. It's just the whole story is just awful. I don't mind saying, I've really immersed myself in that story over the past probably 48 hours. I think somebody came from the roadside up to the back. They know that he went into the sliding door. And if he had done that, if he had come from the back side, he never would have known there was really a downstairs. Oh, thank you, Kel. Yeah, buried behind bars. That's his name. That's right. Buried behind bars. And I gotta tell you, he loves his cage. He actually has like a it's sort of like a bird McMansion. He even has a swimming pool. And he has a beautiful bride, and her name is Fancy. She's a white uh, bougie and has tanzanite blue flashes on her wings. And, they have any manner of toys and treats, a swimming pool, there's a swing, there's like a cave that's all furry that they can get into. So, yeah, these are two very lucky birds, actually. You hear that, Barry? If you don't quit talking, I'm fixing to take your swimming pool away, buddy. That's what I thought. Mm-hmm. Just simmer down and you can keep your pool. Okay. So ridiculous, isn't it? Okay. Hey, Veronica, welcome. Glad you're here. Okay, so I know those of you that don't like the birds, you're very aggravated right now, and I please just don't listen to this video. The video that I put up tonight, I vow to you, no birds. Okay? No birds for this evening. Barry, I am going to take your swimming pool, buddy. I'm going to take your swimming pool out. Okay. Living the dream. Any chance I can move in with one of the birds? They got it pretty damn good. They got a trapeze. They got all kinds of fun things. They actually have real tree branches that they love to climb on and gnaw on. Oh, and listen, this is so funny. So they have a mirror, and the mirror has like a perch in front of it. And so you can sit on the perch. Well, if you're a bird, if you're Barry, you can sit on the perch and you can look at yourself in this mirror, right? And apparently birds are really vain. They love to look at themselves. But listen to what's so crazy. So Fancy spends about 70% of the day doing what? Looking in the mirror. I swear to you. She just sits there and looks at herself in the mirror. Barry never looks in the mirror, but he does a lot of, well, he's in the pool a lot. He likes to splash around in the water, and he hangs upside down a lot. He flies a lot. Yes, this is a huge cage so they can fly around. I got a soft heart. Okay. Um, so Barry's super active, but no, Fancy just sits and looks in the mirror like a girl. So, yeah, I think I ordered these branches that were specifically for these birds. So maybe it is willow branches, critters. What you remember, y'all? I don't know if y'all ever knew the story or not. I did not ever want birds. That was the last thing on my list I needed was birds. Okay. My house is already like a zoo. But I was outside one day and this little blue bird came down, swooping down, flew right in front of me, just hovering in the air, like right in front of me before finally landing, on my like my chest, shoulder area. And I would shoo him off and he'd come back and land again. And then finally he flies over and he lands on Drover's back. And Drover just stood there and he turned it, he looked at me like, hey, Mom, there's a bird on my back. Is that okay? He didn't know what to do. So he just sort of got really still, and didn't move. And so I was like, at that point, then I was like, okay, this is somebody's bird. Like this bird doesn't want to go away. This bird wants to go into the house. And so my husband and son went up to PetSmart and got a little cage and some food. And he just jumped right in and he was very happy to be in his cage. He was perfectly happy. And then I started looking at all of the Facebook pages, all the pet rescue, lost and found stuff online. called around. There's a big bird sanctuary up toward Houston, called there. Never found anything, never found anything. And I felt really bad. And I ran across, I was trying to learn about these birds because I didn't know a damn thing about how to take care of this bird. I didn't know whether they liked it cold or hot or what to eat, or I didn't know anything. And so one of the places that I read online said, they're really, really social. And if your bird, doesn't have a mate, then you should turn the television on where like YouTube, where they have bougies that are singing, there's recordings of them talking and chattering and singing. And so when I turned that on, my bird went crazy. He was talking and he was whistling, he was flying. I was just like, okay, now I feel guilty. And so that is how we ended up with Fancy. I went up to PetSmart and bought another damn bird. Instead of just I couldn't release Barry. I couldn't release Barry into the wild because the bougies that get released into the wild, they die within like 5 days. So then I was like, well, I can't kill my damn bird. Oh, hold on. I got a guest here. Just a second. All right, let me. Hi, Meezer. Hey, sweet Meezer. Okay, y'all. My guests are here. I have to get off the live, but tonight I will be going live to talk about this whole Idaho and the Virginia murders that all happened on the same day. And we'll discuss all of that. And until then, I hope you'll go over to A Balance's channel and listen to his newest video related to Debbie Collier and just sort of listen to his ideas, because I liked it because it was so different from my point of view. I think that's a good thing, to challenge each other, to look at, things in a different light. So I hope you will do that. And I will see you guys tonight. Y'all have a good afternoon. Try to stay warm, especially if you're up north in the 9 feet of snow. All right. See you later. Bye.